Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeChara coming to you live once again from downtown Flushing, New York, with another exciting adventure. And tonight we have my good friend Eldonna Fernandez, right? It's Eldonna Fernandez now with two N's. So if you saw our graphics, I misspelled it. It wasn't on my team, it was on me. So I apologize. We're going to have to do a do-over on that, Eldonna.
Yeah, gee, you left part of me out.
But the important thing is that you're here and we got a real story to tell, and we don't have that much time to do it in. I could talk to you forever. You've had an interesting career. I think that when I met you about, 8 years ago, you were a retired Air Force general, right?
Master, sir.
You were running the government, and then you became the pink biker chick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still there's a pink biker chick still inside.
Well, there was the whole you showed up when I first met you. You showed up on a freaking Harley.
That's right.
So that was my first impression of you, and you really scared the crap out of me, to be honest with you. So
I'm a bad biker chick, military veteran.
I was like, okay, I better be nice to her. But so we became friends. I've seen you grow, and a couple of years ago, you showed up like in this African garb, and I was like, you went from the pink biker chick to Swahili.
Kenya bead queen.
So I know the whole story. I've been watching you on your journey. I know that you had like a transformation, but how do you go from like being in the military to driving riding a Harley, and now you're doing what you're doing? You're like in another continent, changing people's lives.
Yeah. Well, obviously, my story about I'm a retired Air Force veteran, spent 23 years in the Air Force. My career field was called contracting. Contract specialist was my career field name. And I did contracts management and negotiation in the military, stateside and overseas, bought lots of stuff, spent lots of money, deployed lots of places. And retired from the Air Force, went to work, and I started riding Harleys in 1996. So I've been riding a Harley for a long time. Saw most of Europe from the seat of my Harley. Can't ride right now because of my injury, but I love motorcycling. It's wonderful. And I got out of the military. I started working for a defense contractor, and I was working on doing some branding around my Harley, and I did have an intention of doing more in the women's motorcycle industry, but I found there really wasn't a place for me, and people on the outside didn't really get it. I had a whole thing about taking control of the handlebars of your life, which I do still talk about when I speak on self-leadership. But the fact that I'm such a good negotiator, many people encouraged me to write a book and teach people about negotiation. And I've helped a lot of people get money back from landlords on contracts, on various things. And I wrote a book called Think Like a Negotiator and started doing speaking and training on negotiation and leadership. And I still do some of that. I like to speak on negotiation and share about negotiation with people. I was building my speaking business. But 2018, I felt a real calling to go to Kenya. And I said yes to that calling. I had to raise money to go. And
so let's slow down a little. This is the part that I didn't get. What do you mean you had a calling?
Well, I actually, at Craig Duswalt's event, I had a booth, and right next to me in the booth and I think I was speaking there. I had a little speaking slot. And there was somebody named Steve Rutenbar who had an organization, and he was working with Craig to raise some money to help hurricane victims. And at that time, the hurricane in the Houston, Beaumont area. And I sat and talked to him about 2 hours, and he'd been going to Kenya for about 20 years. And I just felt this, Now my church goes to Rwanda, and I always thought in my head, oh, maybe I'll go there someday. I just never felt like that's where I needed to go. But something about Kenya was just kind of in my heart. And I didn't make a decision then, but then Craig had his event, Rock Your Life event, where he had that first event out, and it was where he had actually Steve there and his team, and they were showing videos about Kenya and talking about Kenya. And actually Sister Frida, who is at the clinic in Kenya that his organization Reaching Beyond Ourselves has helped for many, many years, she was here, and I met her, and I just felt I just felt this like calling from God to me. That's what it was, that I needed to go to Kenya. And there were a lot of things that tried to stop me from going, but I ended up going. And it changed my life. Our friend Larry Broughton had said to me, you're either going to love it or hate it. It's going to change your life one way or the other. And it just may grab a hold of you. And it did. Wow. I was over there. We went for a 10-day trip, and the whole money raising thing was interesting, but I raised the funds. We went for a 10-day trip, and we went and served people in prisons and in schools and in clinics and kids on the street. And the last place we went over there was a place called the Kipsongo Slum. And the Kipsongo Slum has people that live in little mud huts, no kitchens, no bathrooms, no running water. They're struggling. They're below the poverty line. And when we went and met them, they greeted us with singing and smiles and hugs. And it just really touched me. I mean, the whole experience in Kenya touched me. I knew I'd want to go back, but that really touched me significantly. And one of the ladies, when we were getting ready, gifted me with this necklace I'm wearing. I always speak about it. Her name's Patricia. This is made out of magazines. We call this the Patricia collection after her. And she gifted it to me and said, well, I need sponsorship for my son to go to school. And I left there thinking, oh, maybe I can do that. But woke up in the middle of the night with a God-inspired idea to buy some beads and sell them with my book when I speak. And that's how it all started. I brought back half a suitcase of beads.
Really? Okay, so you met these people. Okay, so that's heartwarming. I'm getting comments here, so I'm looking over. I don't want to skip over an important part of who you are, because you mentioned speaking. You don't just speak. I mean, you get paid, and you are one of the top, Toastmasters speakers, correct?
Speaker. Yeah, I'm an accredited speaker in Toastmasters, which is a professional speaking designation that was really challenging to achieve. There are 88 of us out of the over 350,000 Toastmasters members worldwide. So it's a very elite designation within Toastmasters. There's a lot of stringent rules that you have to and criteria you have to meet before you can even apply. And you go through a stringent process. They accept the application. You get judged online and then in person. Well, not right now.
Listen, I was in the thing where you had to do I forget how long it was, but there could be no edits. You couldn't, I mean, it was, and you told the story about the idiot landlord that tried to take your daughter. And he didn't know who he was dealing with, right?
Right. That's the fair and reasonable strategy. So in negotiation, determining what is or is not fair and reasonable. And he tried to take her whole deposit, and that didn't.
I'll never forget that. And it was like, so if you're watching and people are looking for like a great speaker, they're going to have to get in touch with you. We're going to have to give them your contact info. Luckily, Elizabeth is watching, so she's great at giving that info. But I just wanted to let people know, you're just who you are. You have a lot of credentials. You bring a lot to the table, and you wound up in Africa. You call it below the poverty level. I'm like, there's another definition for what you described. And they are very discriminated against. We're talking about these women, right?
Well, there's also men in Kipsongo. So Kipsongo started back in the 70s when these where it is in Kitale, Kenya, which is about 8 hours from Nairobi, an 8-hour drive. It's a 1-hour flight. It's
Okay.
an 8-hour drive. And these ladies are from Lodwar, which is another 8 or 9 hours away. So their whole tribe left warring tribe and tribal clashes and ended up squatting on some land, and then they squatted on some other land, and then the government allowed them to squat on this land. Well, basically, it's an old landfill that they've just built. They did have these dome huts that were all used to have plastic bags and stuff, but other groups came in and built these mud huts, so at least they have a mud hut to live in. And but it's very small. It's about the size of my kitchen. And
I mean, do they have like running water?
No.
Oh my God.
There are 3 pumps in the slum. 2 of them don't work, and I think I have a solution to fix those whenever we can go back into Kenya. But the other one is there's one in the slum that I call it the water mafia. They've taken over the water pump, and they charge people for water. So
Oh my God.
And they don't have any money. So for people to get water, they have to walk with buckets down to the river and come back. And they cook on little fire. They either have a little pan with some charcoal, or they cook on an open fire. That's how they cook their food.
So let me get this straight. You go in there and they live like this, and you came into their village and they were singing to you.
Mm-hmm. That's what really amazed me. Somebody had built them a meeting room. So that's where they met us, and we were taking them supplies like blankets and food. And they greeted us with singing, and that's really what touched me. They have nothing. Nothing. Like, if you've never lived in extreme poverty, you can't even imagine what it would be like. I can get up and go over here to my kitchen and get some water that I can drink. I can go to the bathroom. I can go take a shower. We take those things for granted, and they have none of that, and they are still happy anyway. That's what really impressed me, how happy they were.
And didn't it make you wonder, like, I don't know, I don't know if I could ever do what you did. I know that it would be life-changing for me. I don't know if I have the courage to be honest with you, but that's beyond. I can't even fathom it.
I will say that when I came back, I was disgusted at the gluttony here. And
and that's what kills me. You got people complaining because they're only getting another 300 a week in unemployment, right?
Right.
I mean, and that everything's relative. I understand that, but so what you did though, so you brought these beads back. So they're handmade beads, and they're making them with what?
Well, some of them, they have seed beads, like some of these behind me here, those are seed beads. But both of these that I'm wearing are made out of magazines. So they're hand rolled, and some of them are painted. Some of them are the actual magazine themselves, and they put little seed beads in between them. But this is all sustainable. It's all handcrafted from paper so they've turned something that would normally get thrown away into a beautiful piece.
I love that. I want to help you sell these. And so what was it? There was like 3 or 4 of them, I guess, that you bought their beads and brought them back here.
Well, the first we got a few together, and it was about 10 women. And then when so I bought half a suitcase of beads and brought them back, and that was the end of February 2018. And I was getting ready to speak at a women's event on March 8th, International Women's Day. And I sold most of the beads there and other events I attended. So I sold out. And so I doubled the order. Pastor Steve was still over in Kenya. I came back. A lot of the group came back. He stayed over there. And so I doubled the order, and he brought those back, and I sold those out. And then I got a whole suitcase brought to it. Actually, the first time I really told the story where I worked it in with my negotiation talk was at a Toastmasters conference up in the Napa area. And the guy who was running the conference, his son was in Nairobi. and he brought the suitcase of beads back, which was just in time because I was almost out. So I go and I do my talk and talk about negotiation, fair and reasonable, and prepare in advance, and own your power, build relationships, and ask for exactly what I want, which is where the story comes in. So I told the story and I ended, and I go out to my table, and they're like, I usually do well. I sell almost all my books, if not all my books, and some of my other products. But what was about to happen had never happened before like this. It was a frenzy. People bought, I sold out of my books. I had to actually ship about 15 more books to people. And people were buying beads. And then that started happening everywhere I went. I tell the story and they buy the beads. And I thought, I'm on to something. I went back to Kenya, July 2018, brought back 7 suitcases of beads. February 2019, 11 suitcases. And now we're shipping through DHL and the post office because we're selling. Actually, through the pandemic, we've still been able to sell some, but the sales have dropped off. But it's been doing good for helping. We started with 5 women. We're up to over 30.
Wow. So there were 5 women making these beads. So I just want to take people through the steps because, so that maybe they could understand what's going on there. Did you buy them out? Like, did you buy all of their beads?
At the first time I bought some from each lady. I wanted to make sure I only had money, and I bought a good amount of what they had.
And then how much did you spend about?
About $200.
Okay, so we're not talking like even thousands. It's not that much money, but it's probably like a lot of money to them, right?
Oh, it is definitely. The exchange rate is and what things cost there are a lot different than they are here in the U.S. But it helped them. So I was like, oh, this is great. And what was funny, there were people that were saying, oh, good luck with that. Oh, that'll never work. And even the ladies themselves, because people go on these trips, their heartstrings get tugged, they come back to the US and life goes back to normal, which there's no harm, no foul with that. But the thing about it was, for me, it wasn't like that. It was something that I could not let go of. And,
I know how that feels.
Yeah, and I was determined. And so when I placed the second order, they were kind of like, oh, Then when the third order, by the time I went back for the fourth order, which was the 7 suitcases, I had placed an order ahead of time. I have a director there that's on the team that I work with, and she coordinates the orders and everything. And then I go and we have a market day and I buy from them. And they started to believe. As a matter of fact, that when I showed up in July and I walked up to the original 5, they were at Patricia's, where Patricia was living at the time. And she comes out and she looks me up and down and she says, no. And she turns around and walks off. And I thought, what'd I do? No. She comes out, ties a tribal blanket around me, puts some extra beads on me. She says, if you're going to be with us, you have to look like us. I said, okay. So now I got out of the military and left the uniform behind, only to have another uniform. So I have a uniform that I have to wear.
And that's another picture I'll never get out of. So I got you on the motorcycle. I got you in your military uniform, and then I got you wearing your African garb, and you were in that whole tent. And I'm like, did she get hit by lightning or something? But yeah, so what's funny is because we get to talk a lot, and you're like, oh, but I want to sell more. I'm like, and then we're going through. I'm like, oh, but I'm seeing like a miracle happening, and I think sometimes we're so caught up in the details. I'm like, don't you see? You're giving these people hope.
Yeah.
And I think that you can't even put a price on that.
What's really been great is, so when the pandemic started and everything started shutting down, their markets totally shut down over there. They were selling things. They'd go to the street market and sell things. And there were other missionary groups that would go over there and they would sell to them. So they had a little bit of income on top of what I was buying. And we were starting to work on getting into some of the resorts. where we could sell beads for them to the resorts and things like that. Well, all that shut down. And then I was in 3 locations and I had to pull out of 2 because I just wasn't making rent. And the other one I was able to stay in. And so the orders went down too. And I'm a verified member of the Fair Trade Federation, and the fair trade concept is not to give a handout. And one of my slogans is a hand up, not a handout. But I couldn't, in good conscience, keep buying product that was going to get stockpiled and not sold. So I made a commitment to make sure that, because they have no food programs, no food stamps or anything over there. If you're in poverty, you don't have food, and a nonprofit doesn't give you food, you're going to starve. So I was really adamant about ensuring that these women and their children had enough food throughout the whole pandemic. And I kind of let it go and walked by faith on that one. And people have shown up every month. We've been able to feed over 30 women and 80 children since March, every single month with food packs. There's been people who've donated a little bit or a lot, and it's been wonderful. I've just been so grateful for that, because I can't sit here in my home and eat my dinner. I can maybe go to a restaurant, go to In-N-Out or something, or somewhere, go get some meal somewhere, or cook something at home, and sit here in good conscience and think my ladies are starving. So I'm just grateful for that.
You know, and my hat's off to Eldonna, because that's a big, you know, responsibility to take on, you know, for anybody. But you're doing great things. And I want to get back to, you know, your business model and how people can connect with you and maybe, you know, help. And helping might just be to buy a couple of beads, right? It could be as simple as that. But I want to take a moment. I have somebody that just showed up in the green room, a surprise guest. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here we are. And he's got, I don't know what he did with his camera, but there he is, Mr. Wolf.
Hey!
Your biker friend. Hey, Jeff.
That's my brother right there.
So, you know Eldonna's story better than
very well.
Most people. So what do you think, Jeff? Is she onto something here?
Incredibly, yes. You know, you look at the, because she has such a serving spirit and brings that into her business, into her professional speaking. It's demonstrated so much through baskets and beads that, you know, it's a great example that she's setting for all of us on how we can, you know, listen to that whisper, follow the heart, and what seems like a small action can have phenomenal impact. I mean, to be able to feed 30 plus families through the times that everyone's been struggling with in 2020 and now into 2021, that's phenomenal.
I have a hard time feeding myself, Jeff.
Unbelievable. Yeah, right. Right. Not to mention, she's a really good motorcycle rider too.
Oh, Jeff's like, I know he's going to tell the story about how we met and how he was like, go ahead, about how Harley.
Now he has to. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry, I lost the sound. Are you talking?
Who's talking?
We want to hear how you and Eldonna met.
Eldonna was at an event doing an accredited speaker workshop for Toastmasters with Cheryl Roush, and she was doing a book signing. She and Cheryl had just published a book, and Cheryl introduced me to Eldonna. We're talking. I got one of her books signed. It was Heart of a Military Woman, wasn't it, Eldonna, at that time?
Yeah.
We were talking about the military, and I was just fascinated by her career as a U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant. And she mentioned that she rides a Harley, and she's a giant in spirit, and then on camera sometimes it can be hard to gauge height. And I look at it, Eldonna's a petite, attractive, gregarious woman, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, Air Force, that didn't really compute. I was surprised. Wow, knew that the women in the Air Force were as good looking and as smart as Eldonna. I would have considered this when I was younger. And then she says she rides a Harley, and I'm like, you ride a Harley.
That was so funny. He just kind of was like, he said it just like that. You. I mean, it's just you ride a Harley. And
Yes, as you're watching this, yes, she does. She has a kicking, it's a Harley Davidson. It's a custom, the model from the factory, and she had that sent all around the world with her. And she's ridden places I've always would love to have gone in the UK, Europe, just phenomenal stories. And she and I have had the chance to spend a fair amount of time out on the road. And I will tell you, I am very picky about who I will ride with. I know a lot of people that ride motorcycles, and there's maybe 5 or 6 that I will actually pick up the phone and say, hey, let's go for a ride. Because it just, to be able to enjoy it and to know that somebody's not going to, through incompetence or or not paying attention, do something that's going to lead to it not being a good day. I just, at this point in my life, I won't ride with that many people. Eldonna, one of the people that anytime, anywhere.
So
we always have a good time riding, and it always ends up being a great talk too. We talk business, we talk life, family, great spiritual conversations. So it's Eldonna is one of those rare people that you get to meet seemingly randomly. If you believe in coincidence, I would ask you to reconsider that position. But if you believe in coincidence, seemingly coincident meeting that has now turned into lifelong friend, colleague, in addition to our family.
Yeah. So Jeff, I love, I don't know if you got the whisper thing from Glenn Morshower, but I try to listen to that all the time. I want to thank you for
and ignore it and go, what could possibly happen? I don't recommend that. I do not recommend that.
Let's just give everybody a chance to get to know you a little bit. What do you do, and what's up with you? I haven't talked to you in a long time. I don't know if you're still doing your adventures, but I want to hop on one of those one of these days.
Yeah, I am Eldonna's PR person.
Okay. I had no idea.
No, it's just, we've she invited me to crew and support some of her events, and we've introduced each other to people that have become, that we've both known that have become highly valued advisors for each of us. I'm grateful for that, because I also do speaking, speak on leading change. During the pandemic, I finally finished the second edition of my first book, which was Creating Business Value. It's written around a case study on a manufacturing company turnaround that we did. And we increased the value of the company 74% in 9 months.
Wow.
And it's being able to do that, thanks to Eldonna, I've been learning how to create much more engaging training experiences. And we've had the chance to work together in the training room as well. And I greatly appreciate that, where, like some of the approaches that she uses in her negotiation training, where you have actually, live role plays, live action games, makes it much more effective. And I've been applying that to my stuff going online as well. And we produce adventure summits for high performance leaders, where we will pull together a small group and let's think of an adventure mastermind. What have you always wanted to do? You want to ride horseback at sunset on the high plains of Colorado, go whitewater rafting.
Yes. So you're still doing this?
Yes, we are, watching for, we're based in California, so no one's allowed to go outside in Los Angeles still, but we're waiting for things to open back up so that we can, for 2021, we are in the process of negotiating. Thanks to Eldonna's help on learning how to negotiate better. Have a private boat tour. We're gonna do a 3-hour tour fishing.
Okay.
3 hours.
No, yeah. I don't know if it'll be 3 hours. It'll probably be like a day long or a couple of days, where we'll have a rhythm, go out, fish for big game fish. Things, tuna, sailfish, things like that. We're looking at 100 to 300 pound catch in one fish. But do that with a small group, where it's really, we get a rhythm of going out, having some adventure, spend some time out on the ocean. We have a top talent. We always invite what we call a celebrity CEO, which doesn't mean celebrity in the sense of a name that you would necessarily recognize, like Sir Richard Branson. Everybody knows who Sir Richard is.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Right. But in this sense, it's someone who is top in their field. So in what they do, they're very well known. amongst high performers, but not
Okay.
necessarily in pop culture. So we have someone who's top in the internet world that we're working with to have be our celebrity CEO for that. So it'll be good, good couple of days of business planning, how to take things to the next level, and having some fun, seeing who can catch the biggest fish. And there's some other surprises that
All right.
we can't talk about to go along with that.
Keep me in the loop.
I'll just add, Jeff's not only a phenomenal speaker and trainer, he worked with us on our last government contract that we had before everything shut down and got rave reviews. He's a phenomenal speaker that should be an accredited speaker because that's how good he is. And I'm grateful for all the years of fun and banter and help and support, and couldn't have done it without you, brother. Let me tell you.
It works both ways, and you know that. And for Joe too, as you're watching this, I want you to consider this. So here's the three of us talking today. We have met through the three of us got connected through Craig Deswalt, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Eldonna and I got connected through Cheryl Roush because when I joined Toastmasters, somebody quickly introduced me to Cheryl because she's one of the key people in the accredited speaker program in the professional speaking community within Toastmasters. Cheryl introduced me to Eldonna, and even through the shutdown, we've stayed in touch with each other. What's going on? What are we doing? We're sharing tips and tricks. What's working, what's not. How are you moving things online? And that's who we've been hanging out with. As you're watching this, 2020 was a year where most people, I believe, and check me if this was not your situation. Good for you. But I think you may be able to legitimately nod your head and say, you know what? 2020 was a year where I felt like I was being rained on all year long with something that smelled bad. And 2021 is starting out as going to be another interesting ride. If nothing else, the inertia from 2020 is going to carry into 2021. It's going to be chaotic for at least for second quarter in the best of circumstances. And, so who are you choosing to hang out with? How are you moving forward? As you're watching this, think about that. Are you getting to know people like Eldonna? You really should. You should reach out to Eldonna because she can help you with so much. Her expertise in negotiation, what she does as a professional speaker, she can help you bring more to your events. Same thing for Joe. Joe has great expertise in helping businesses grow. He understands what's going on in the tax environment, the whole CPA environment. CPAs a lot of times don't really help you with your business. Joe is one of the ones who's also happens to be an entrepreneur. Joe, I really look at you as more of an entrepreneur that happens to be a CPA.
Oh, yeah. You got
so that brings so much more to the table.
Yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, it comes with drawbacks too, Jeff. So let's get off of me here. And I didn't plan on making.
But it's just, as you're, because you do these series, Joe, and I've watched them and watch them evolve, and it's always great value. And it just, as you're watching this, what are you doing with your time? Who are you hanging out with? Because it makes a huge difference, right? We tell our kids, be careful who you hang out to, and then we act as adults. We act like that doesn't count anymore. Like, oh, really? How's that working for you?
No, when I was 17, my grandmother looked at my friends and she said, "I don't like those kids you're hanging out with." Mm-hmm. And they were my best friends that I had grown up with. And 2 years later, 4 of them were arrested for armed robbery.
Wow.
When they were two of them were 18. They spent 3 years in prison. Okay. And I think about that now, and I think about and I'm like, I hang out with Larry Broughton, Eldonna, Haley Gray, people like you. I try to surround myself with successful, like-minded people. Mm-hmm. It's really simple. It is really simple.
I wrote about
people like Craig, people mm-hmm. that bring, the positive energy. My VA, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The book I wrote, The Go Pink Rules of Engagement, which was my first book, 5 foundational principles for taking control of the handlebars of your life, not taking a back seat in your life, but going to the front seat, taking control of the handlebars and rolling on your throttle to success. One of those is surround yourself with people who hold you to a higher standard, not people mm-hmm. who put you down. And it's very important the people you hang around with, because their mentality is going to feed into your mentality. If you're hanging around people that are always dogging and negative and bringing down and disparaging people and doing whatever, then you're likely to go down that path too. But when you hang around like this group, positive, uplifting people that are focused on doing something good, doing something productive to help other people, that brings you up. It brings your ability to do it for yourself up. And I've noticed that throughout my life. I mean, I made some dumb choices as a kid with people I hung around, and
like I did.
yeah. I mean, I'm thankful for the Air Force. The Air Force was that foundational thing that kind of saved my life and got me on the right track.
Yeah, college got me on the right track, so thank God for that. But let's get back.
I wish I could remember college.
So we're actually over time. I try to keep these.
Oh,
like
yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't, and
okay.
thanks for letting me jump in. I was just about to bounce back out again because I didn't want to take up so much of the time because you both had such a great talk going.
Oh no,
thank you for letting me interrupt that.
Hey, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, my sister.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you so much for continuing to do this.
All right, Jeff. Thank you for showing up and for being there.
Appreciate it.
Take care. So Eldonna, so how do people connect with you? I'm pretty sure Elizabeth put your baskets and beads up there. Yes, we have the link. What do you want people? What would you like people to leave with?
Well, I guess my whole thing is around the last few years of my life, and I didn't realize. People say thank you for your service in the military, and I never really thought of it that way. So my whole life has been in service. But the thing is, a friend of mine, Shelley Hunt, says those who serve succeed. So you succeed more when you come out of service. I didn't mention the fact that I took on a corporate job in order to be able to still put funding into this business until it grows into sustainability. So because of my speaking business, obviously I've had a few online speaking, but nothing like I was doing. That sort of tanked, and I had to make a decision really quick. And I have never been more walking by faith and walking in service than any other time of my life than I am now. And when you are in service to humanity, to whoever it is, I mean, I didn't expect to get called to serve in Kenya. I serve veterans here as well. Whoever that is for you, do that service, because when there's a phrase that says, when I got busy, I got better. And that has to do with service. When you're serving others, you have less time to focus on yourself and be miserable with yourself, I guess. It's just helped me to really put perspective on life.
So, yeah, and that was, Larry said two words that stuck with me: serve first. And that makes it simple. You're like, who can I help today? And I do want people to reach out to you to buy your beads, but they can buy the beads, but also you're still speaking, right? I mean, if somebody wanted to hire you to do a keynote, you're still available?
I definitely speak. I don't.
Okay.
You can't really promote two things at once, but people know of me and know of my expertise, so I get booked to speak. I do actually online trainings that are experiential. So if somebody wants to actually do negotiation, I can do it online and make it experiential and have the audience engaged. It won't simply be a blah, blah, blah blip, but I can do that. And then also baskets and beads, basketsandbeadskenya.com. One of the things I will add is the Air Force core values that I still live by are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all that I do. So the service before self thing is a foundational principle of my life. And I've really turned that over even more with what I'm doing with these ladies in Kenya. I love them. I am looking forward to going and seeing them. I'm actually praying about whether or not to go in February. I haven't seen them in a year and I miss them terribly. And I need to see them and connect with them and just be with them.
Okay. I love that. I love you. You are an inspiration. And I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
So if you're watching, if you're not watching, you don't know this. So if you're watching, just go to Baskets and Beads and support Eldonna any way you can. That's our story. We're sticking with it. Thank you, Eldonna. And good night, everyone.
Awesome sauce.